We opened high-speed compression, 3 clicks. So you like that better than the run before?
No, I think I liked it stiffer.
Okay. So now we're gonna go back 1, 2, 3. And then if you wanna just go ahead and run it, we're gonna close it 3 on top of that.
Okay.
So now you've run it in the middle, you've run 3 open from that, and now we're going 3 closed from that. We just ran through a quick session on how to bracket suspension. We focused on the low speed and high speed compression. We're gonna move on to rebound, but it's exactly the same as compression. It's just called rebound. But for the function, you do it exactly the same way. Close it 2, better or worse. Open it 2, better or worse. There's no difference in how you actually test it. So we've moved down a section just to try something else. We've run through our bracketing of the fork and shock. That's click, click, better, worse, click, click, better, worse. Same process, fork and shock, there's no difference. Same process for any brand of suspension as well. Right now we've got the bike feeling good for Connor, but he's still bottoming out the shock pretty regularly. The fork's leaving a little bit of travel, but not a ton. So probably leave that as good for now, but the shock definitely needs a little more support. So we're gonna move on to volume spacers right now. So you shouldn't have this in your notes, but you thread your pump on, check what pressure you got in there. This pump is reading 178. We know we put 190 in it, that's about right. You end up having to fill this hose up, and that's where the drop in pressure comes from. When you pump it back up, you'll pump it to 190, and there'll be 190 in the shock. You don't lose anything. And you can take your valve cap or a fingernail or a little piece of tool and just let the air out of this shock. Make sure it's all out. So we've let the air out. Now we want to just kind of wiggle the can all the way forward just to expose this little snap ring here. The snap ring needs to be centered right where that little notch is. You can usually just hook a fingernail in and pop it off. And on this bike, the shock is easy to get to, so we can just do volume spacers with it in the frame. And here we see that there's 2 spacers in it. Probably takes a maximum of 4, possibly 5. You can look that up, ridefox.com/bike/help. And these little things just clip together. So now you got 4 in there. It's a good change. Can goes back on. Spring clip. Nice and secure. And then go ahead and pump it back up. And remember, every time you add air, you need to transfer from negative to positive until they're both equal. So we've got 180 PSI in the positive right now. I'm just gonna push down slowly. Usually it's about 1 centimeter, and you'll hear it. You'll also feel it as soon as it transfers air. It's equalizing between the negative and the positive chambers. And you need to do this every time you pump it or let air out. Cool, so we just added 2 volume spacers to the 2 you had, and
Feels great.
feels better, huh? You can see the shock, you still have some travel left to use. The fork you do as well. I don't see that as a problem, especially here. It's rocky and rough, but it's not especially gnarly. Now we're at a place where I think the bike is probably pretty balanced. And this is where you can start to experiment and learn things. You make changes that maybe aren't right, but it teaches you what those changes do, and sometimes you'll learn something. Sometimes you'll be wrong and they are good. So what we're gonna do is, even though his sag is good and pressure's okay, and not bottoming the fork, we're gonna add a volume spacer in just to see what that does to the feeling of the suspension. So that was adding 2 volume spacers and
I liked it better before.
a little bit harsh.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll pull that one back out and get going again.
Okay.
So we're back to 1 volume spacer in the fork, 85 PSI.
Feeling good?
Cool. So 170 mil fork, 1 volume spacer, 85 PSI, 175 pounds.
175, 80. Yeah.
Plus gear. Grip 2 damper is set at 12 low speed compression. That's always from closed to open. 15 high speed compression, and 5 and 5 on both rebounds, high and low speed. The Float X2 shock now has 4 volume spacers at 190 PSI. It's a 230 by 60 shock. The low speed compression is at 14, high speed compression is 15, low speed rebound 13, high speed rebound 14. So that's part 2 of our suspension setup videos. Slightly more in-depth on-trail work. I hope this is helping you guys out. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know and we'll get back to you. We will do a more in-depth episode in Lenzerheide as well. And little by little, we'll hope to get you guys all dialed. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all soon.